Marry me, weirdos! I'm Gory B Movie, and with me tonight is my favorite YouTuber, Danny Nightmare of Horror Addicts. Danny, tell me what you do.
I review horror movies and things horror in general. And this is my favorite movie.
It is a great one. We actually got to see this on the IMAX at Seattle. We're also having a bit of a Washington moment tonight because we also have, we're from Wenatchee, Central Washington, and we have our Seattle friend, a good friend of ours from Crypticon, Kim. She is the co-host of Ghoulish Tendencies podcast. She's a true crime expert. She's a paranormal investigator. She does all the things. It's only like a few of her titles. So, Kim, tell me what you do.
Yes, I do a podcast called Ghoulish Tendencies where we talk about supernatural, we talk about true crime, we do movie curses sometimes. We've done a couple horror movie curses, which has been really fun. I worked at Spooked in Seattle as an investigator and tour guide. I also do my 100 Days of Horror, which we're going on year 10 for coming up. 100 horror films I've never seen in the 100 days leading up to Halloween.
Sweet.
So that's
very cool. I saw that today on Twitter.
Yeah, that's where I'm hoping to kind of like incorporate a YouTube component in this year, and so we'll see.
If you need recommendations, I could hook you up with some weird ones.
I'm gonna be picking everyone's brain because year 10, that means we're going into 1,000 movies, and
wow,
we're starting to scrape into some of the really weird ones.
I love it. I love it. I've been doing on Letterboxd a challenge of screams around the world. So I've been trying to watch this one horror movie from every country around the world. And I found some really cool ones along the way. So yeah, I just watched Corpse Mania from China, which is cool.
Ooh.
It's like an old school slasher, like China, you've been holding out on me. I didn't know you had slashers.
That's not something I think of when I think of Chinese horror. Well, and we should chat because I'd proposed a panel that was about like international horror films from countries that don't normally do horror. So we should chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we've got a great group with us today in the Gory Hole. Congratulations to Jason of the B Movie Coven. He's been a B Movie Coven member for 2 months. We have a lot of fun. That is our channel membership here on the Gory B Movie channel. So we watch movies together. We do all kinds of crazy stuff. We just watched The Raven together, which was really fun.
Oh, I love The Raven.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Really
fun. We also got Connie Cleary, Strange Monkey Reviews, Kevin from Haunted by Horror, The Lion Queen. Great group tonight. And I'm excited because we're going to talk about a movie that I consider to be a goddamn masterpiece, people. It's a masterpiece. And congratulations also to Connie, who's been a member for a month. Hey. So the reason I do these streams, what we love about streams, is because horror is a genre that I feel like I'm constantly having to defend the merits of. And a lot of the movies we cover on this show fall into that, where I have to explain why I think it's not just an enjoyable film, but a great film. And this is one I actually didn't think I'd have to defend until I saw a friend of mine's review on Letterboxd where, she's like, in all fairness, I just don't get it. And so that's what we're going to get into tonight is why is this movie great? Even if you don't enjoy it, why is this a great movie? Why is this a masterpiece? It's a goofy, bloody movie. Why do we love it so much? Danny, you want to kind of get us started?
Yeah, first, hi, Mummy.
Mummy B Movie's here.
Gory did a great job on that intro.
Oh, I worked really hard on it. I wanted to play it last week, but I didn't play it. But hey, it worked today.
It looked awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we got Mummy B Movie, and we got May Ann.
So Kevin said something in the chat a little bit ago, and it's the same for me. This was the last of the original trilogy movie that I saw out of these. I saw Army of the Darkness first. I saw that in theaters when I was a little kid. I loved it. My dad was a manager and even let me keep the giant cardboard cutout of Ash for a while before he threw it away during a move or some shit. But we had it for a while and it was great. And then I was a little older and I saw Evil Dead 1 and I liked that too. But I had no idea the movies were even connected until about a year after that. I saw Evil Dead 2 and I was like, wait, and everything was putting together with the chainsaw and I'm like, so Evil Dead and Army of Darkness are, I was like, probably like 14 or something, but this is my favorite one and I love it. It's a mixture of both. I think the first one is a great horror movie that has some comedy. This is a great horror comedy, and then Army of Darkness is a great comedy horror. So it's like perfectly balanced.
Yeah, a lot of people, this one is the one I think really stands in people's memories. And so I've had a lot of people tell me that this is a horror comedy franchise, and I saw there are comedic elements in that first movie. But this was the one that really combined horror and comedy at a time when that wasn't really a thing. No. It didn't become a thing until like at least, into the mid 80s, I would say. So yeah, it was still a pretty new thing. And this one did it so well. And it's not just a regular horror comedy. It's almost kind of Monty Python-ish. It's a little bit like Stooges.
Yeah. The slapstick in it is intense.
Yes, absolutely.
The Raimi brothers and Campbell are huge Three Stooges fans. Like that's what they love doing. They love doing bits that had like physical comedy, like shtick. And they were having success in horror, obviously, but this is where they kind of like let their personality really show as they made a great horror movie as well.
A lot of the gags, I think, I like them for two reasons. I mean, obviously, they're really funny. I think some of them are really clever. I love the farewell to arms right after Ash cuts off his hand.
Every time. It gets me every time.
And it really spans the gambit from like, highbrow to just really lowbrow stuff. As a kid, my favorite was just the hand flipping Ash off. By the way, guys, I gathered a lot of fun clips from the movie. So if you want to send in a super chat, I've got a whole bunch of them lined up just for you. Some of my favorites, including that one that I just mentioned. I love the laughing scene. It's very physical comedy. And Bruce Campbell doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah. Because
in this movie, he's doing what made Jim Carrey famous.
Mm-hmm.
Full-bodied, physical comedy. He should have gotten a stuntman credit for this movie because what he's doing was extremely dangerous. And he did it expertly well. A scene that comes to mind is the scene where he's twirling at the very beginning of the movie. It's kind of continues on from the first film. That's done by having him on a board, and that board is spinning on the back of a pickup truck.
Oh,
he could have died.
Yeah. And they speed it up, obviously, but still, yeah, he's literally spinning. He didn't lose his life. I don't know. Might have actually.
How many takes they did that potentially too?
Oh, and we got our first super chat of the night. I'm really excited because I got some great clips for you. So thank you for my mummy. Thank you, Mummy B Movie. I love you. And this is for you. Da, da, da.
Chainsaw.
I love that scene. That's
I love the outline of the chainsaw. Like, I definitely outline all of my tools in the tool shed. They go into their little spot.
It's such a callback to the first movie because the first movie he pulls it back and there's the chainsaw, so you expect chainsaw, and it's not there. And we also got a super chat from Kevin from Haunted by Horror. He wants to see a clip. I got lots of clips tonight, so here's one. I love that one. No, it used to be my favorite as a kid.
Very Tom.
That's great.
With the hand.
Yeah, the whole hand scene. I've used that multiple times when I've been doing both theater and the teen horror films I direct. When I'm like, I need you to do this really physical thing, like you're fighting with yourself, and that is always the clip that I send. I'm like, look at this, look at what he does, look at the quality of this physical comedy, his control, everything, and the commitment to it, because that's what sells it.
There's a whole scene where he's in that kitchen and he's having a war with his own hand, which with the wrong actor, that could have looked really stupid.
Oh, and it wouldn't have worked.
It works because you believe that his hand is possessed, that he's having a fight with it, and he is slamming plates on his head.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he suffered for his art. I always compare this to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that, yeah, people got brutalized in both of them, and this one they were laughing along the way.
We hope.
Well, like another one was Ted Raimi. He actually did nearly die making this movie. He played possessed Henrietta. Mm-hmm. There's a scene where Henrietta is attacking her daughter Annie, and Henrietta's spinning, and they did it so much that the suit was filling up with sweat, and he couldn't breathe. But he's doing it for his big brother, and he's trying really hard, and it's just like, oh wow, like they suffered for their art, guys.
Yeah,
it's commitment. You can't fault their commitment.
No, not at all. In fact, Bruce Campbell used flipping himself over and some of the stuff that he did with the hand just to get Briscoe County Jr. when he went in for his audition. He's like, yeah, I can ride a horse. Yeah, I can do stunts. Look, and he like flipped himself right there, like they weren't even expecting it. And they're like, oh, okay.
That's it's not easy to do what he's doing in this. It's stunt work. It is it's stunt work. It's physical comedy. He's also being an action star. And I mean, Ash himself is such a unique character. There's no hero quite like Ash. He's not your hero of the day, of the 80s, the Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Stallone. He's not fearless. He's a coward. Yep. But he does manage to do the right thing, always, even if it takes a little bit of prodding. So we do love him. We do root for him. And he does always come out on top. I can kind of compare him to like Shaggy Rogers from Scooby-Doo, where he's terrified, but he does the right thing. And even though he makes mistakes along the way, he does always win.
Yeah.
That's true.
For like, they had all these action stars back then, but they were action stars of action movies. He kind of was a parody of that in a sense, but more relatable because he was scared of stuff and he was like unwillingly to do stuff. He would usually do it. He just didn't want to. But it was also that character in a horror genre, which was very unique at the time. So.
Checking in with the chat real quick. Our friend Torchbearer is here. You might recognize Torchbearer from Crypticon. They say, I met Bruce Campbell 2 months ago. It was easily one of the stars I was most excited to meet. I would love to meet him. Danny's met him. Have you met him?
I have not. He's on my like horror bucket list.
Yeah,
I need to meet.
Yeah, I want to go to his Bruce convention, all about him, but it's at the Shining Hotel, and I just don't have the money. One of these days, maybe.
And Mummy B Movie is very happy that you're here. She lets me know. You're one of them. She says, Kim is such a great guest. You know your stuff. I love it.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here.
And Lion Queen says, one part when he cuts his hand off is funny. You should see how it's staged in the musical version. That's another thing. You talked about this last week. How this is, I would say, a perfect franchise, and not just the movies we have so far. So we have the first three with Ash. So we have the remake. Remakes. Oh, it was nerve-wracking, but it's incredible. It's not just a good remake.
Oh, good, yeah.
It's one of the scariest movies of all time. Like it's not just bragging. It's a great movie. The TV series is incredible. They've got a new video game out. That's incredible. We've done the escape room in Seattle, which by the way, you can go to virtually. Just type it in. You can probably find it, but you can do it virtually. So if you're not in Seattle, you can do it. And of course the musical. And if you can't see it, it's fine because you can still buy the soundtrack, but the musical is so funny. It combines the first movie and the second.
And then they like skip all the time travel and it ends at the S mark part at the end. But no, the musical was great. As Lion Queen pointed out, it was hilarious. Always get up front row. They'll give you ponchos if you want, but we were like, nah, we want the blood. Bring it on. You will get wet.
We are here to get wet.
Actually, though, I would completely live for an Army of Darkness musical just all by itself.
Yeah,
I would love that.
That should be there next
week. I can't wait.
I think would work as a musical too.
I think so. Yeah, it's because that one's very. it's going for more of like a Ray Harryhausen type, a different kind of genre. But all these movies are so incredibly creative, and I love when I see a movie where I feel like they put their blood, sweat, and tears into it, and that's what this movie
sometimes
is.
literally.
Literally. We talked about, Bruce Campbell, who, eventually became a producer in the series and stuff. He's more than just, the big face of it, who's incredible. But I think the other person, well, I would also say Ted Raimi to a large extent, but the other person who I think has fathered this franchise is Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi is incredible. Like his vision, his passion. There's so many franchises where I love you, Halloween, but I feel so bad for the baby that is Michael Myers, because I feel like John Carpenter birthed this incredible baby, and then he did a movie with it. He did a second one, and then he's like, not feeling it. Dropped it off at the firehouse, and it went through some weird foster homes. Couple weird foster homes. No, Sam Raimi
boarding school.
Yes, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, they have lovingly raised the child that is Evil Dead.
Yes, absolutely.
They're still involved too. They're producers on the new movie, and Ash is looking to come back with Mia in a new movie.
Well, and I think it shows so much when you have an actor and a director who do actively stay involved. It makes such a big difference in building the world and keeping a more consistent world. And like the world of Evil Dead, obviously, it doesn't have as many strict rules, but that's part of what's delightful. But it really reads in all of the movies how this is one big world, one big connected place. And even the remake, which has a little bit of a different tone to it, I think it goes much more straight horror than the others, but it still feels like it's a part of it.
It doesn't feel more like a remake of the first movie too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you said, how there's not a lot of strict rules, but there are rules. There is a world here, and I think it would be it's too simple to say that this is a possession movie. It's not a possession movie in The Exorcist. It's
right. Yeah.
They have the Deadites have the foul mouths of Pazuzu from The Exorcist and some other possession movies, but it also has elements of like zombie films. It has a lot of different horror elements in it that I think makes these Deadite movies really their own thing.
Even though it's supernatural, like you get infected kind of like a zombie would infect you and stuff. And there is, in a sense, a cure, kind of. It's not an easy one. There's
multiple dimensions. There's time travel. Ash got killed by Howard the Duck in the comics.
Yeah, but that wasn't Ashley J. Williams. That was like Ashley M. Williams or something.
We just lost it.
Different ones. Multiverse.
Too deep. Nice to see. Jason says that you can watch the musical online if you search for it. So that's really cool. It's a lot of, I've seen it in Seattle, but definitely if you can find it. And it's nice to see Cheers to Fears here. I believe they're going to be with us next week.
Nice. Ooh, nice.
So that's going to be fun.
They're doing like some Evil Dead drinks over on their channel too.
I love that. They make a lot of specialty drinks, like alcoholic drinks for her.
Tell me more.
I know, right? Like, go check out their channel. It's amazing.
I'm going to have to. That's my jam.
I also want to thank them and Kim for doing an excellent job on the Oscars.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, that was a blast. It was fun to watch too. I was enjoying seeing all the different awards and all the different things people put together. So that was really, really fun.
Yeah, every time someone sends me a new one, I'm like, ooh, as I watch it, I'm like, I can't wait to show everybody this. Line them all up.
We talked a little bit about Sam Raimi. I think one of the things I love the most about his work in these movies is his camera work, his visual. Yeah. The camera is a creature that is a living creature in this. We saw that in the first movie. He has polished it in this one. Yeah. Like I love the homegrown look of the first one, but this one, it's polished. He knows what he's doing. That camera is bursting through doors. It's going through windows. It's spinning around. It can go anywhere. It's a living thing.
That is the evil that is trying to break into the world. Like they've said, there's an evil trying to get into our world, and you can like every time they take a little angle, they look, boom, boom, all the noises and everything's great.
Well, and such a different impact than, like we get the POV shots when we're doing slasher films and we see the killer being like, ooh, I'm peeking around a corner. But it's so aggressive. It's so fast when it punches through things, when you as the audience is just like, whoa, this is, it's me. I'm here. I'm in the driver's seat with this creature, this spirit, this villain. And I think that's also something that's so delightfully unique is really putting the audience in that seat in such an aggressive way.
Yes.
I really like that you said that because I never thought of that before. But we noticed last week with some of the things that where it's like, did he get that, low angle shot from Texas Chainsaw Massacre? We were looking at what we thought maybe were inspirations. And, that was a thing with Black Christmas, with Friday the 13th, the point of view of the serial killer with Peeping Tom. And yeah, we're getting that here, but it's a deadite. It's the Force. The Force is alive.
An evil entity that hasn't even, I love in the beginning of this one where Ash hides in the cellar just to get away from it, but it looks around like, where'd he go? And the noise, it finally leaves, like all disappointed. Like the noise even sounds like, oh.
Like it's like Charlie Brown head, like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bloodsport says, who's in my fruit cellar? And talking about the Deadites, my favorite Deadite is in this movie, Henrietta, by far. I love Henrietta.
Yeah.
Swallow your soul.
Yeah.
I love Henrietta. I love Ted Raimi as Henrietta.
Yeah, especially then like the big long neck version and everything. Like she just keeps, this isn't even my final form type shit. It's just rad.
Well, and again, that kind of goes back to, I think, what can be so terrifying, all the different forms they take, the practical effects, like, oh,
yes.
I salivate when I watch them. They're so cool.
And it's a lot of this. I mean, he's combining so many different art forms, stop motion, claymation. I think my favorite scene, and it should look dated, but it doesn't look dated. It still looks good, is when Linda is dancing outside of the cabin. I watched this yesterday. I'm like, this still looks good. Yeah. It is not dated.
Yeah.
Even the compositing, a lot of times you watch these older movies, and I'm watching this on 4K, so if there was flaws, you would see it. Right. Compositing, sometimes you watch the older movies and it doesn't look quite right. I did see that with, some other movies I've seen recently, but this one, when they're to the bridge and that's all a matte painting, it looks fantastic.
It looks gorgeous. Yeah. Well, and I feel like for me, Evil Dead 2 kind of hits the same thing that like American Werewolf in London does, where yeah, sure, you can do cleaner CGI, you can make something that looks blah, blah, but no matter what, I'm impressed every single time I see the werewolf transformation in American Werewolf. Oh, yeah. Every single time I watch all of these practical effects, I am still there. I'm still believing it. I am still 100%. It doesn't take me out of the movie. It doesn't feel like it's cheap. There's so much attention to detail. I am absolutely willing to just yes and everything.
Well, yeah, and that one also came out the same year as the original Evil Dead, the Evil Dead from 1981. And I think what makes it feel so real is it has that tactile quality. Like you imagine what it smells like, what it feels like. You don't want it to touch you. It makes your skin crawl. Whereas sometimes, even with modern CGI, it's hard to really imagine.
It's sterile.
Like,
it's very sterile.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's the theater person in me also appreciates a movie that does kind of feel like a play, and that I feel like I am in the room there with them. I feel like I'm a part of it, both in the camera works and the way they stage the effects, the way they frame the scenes. I feel like I'm just a bystander in it. And that might be why it's so easy to just accept what everything looks like and how everything is that I feel like I'm there. So I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the world. Great. I'm here. Yeah.
I would say, and that's one of my things, like a lot of people either love the 80s horror movies or they don't for whatever reason, but my big thing about them is they just feel real. Like you can see that thing and you would know how it would feel in your hand to just touch it or whatever. Where CGI and stuff is so disparted from like what I would actually understand. I love that about the 80s, and I think Evil Dead, American Werewolf London, and possibly like The Thing are like the pinnacles of like that practical effects of where I just appreciate it. I just want to touch the props. Like especially when he's like stomps on Henrietta's like and she's in the cellar and her eye just shoots out.
It goes into Bobby Joe's mouth.
Yes, I love that kind of stuff. It's just like it's so real. Even if it looks goofier in a like sense, like a silly, like because it is kind of played for laughs, it still looks real. And that's it has a texture.
That's one
to
of the
it.
clips I had. I'm just gonna play it just for fun.
All right.
Please do.
I love that part.
Oh, Bobby Joe.
Bobby Joe.
The one time she doesn't spit.
Something else about this movie is we talked about the different kinds of horror it combines. It's also kind of a body horror too, like the things that are happening to these people physically. Like, and it's really, I mean, sometimes it can be really sad, like when it's Linda or when Annie's talking to her mother. Like, these are people that you love, and then you see how grotesque these things have what they've done to their bodies. Like, it's really, it would be heartbreaking. It's also disgusting. And then when it happens to a lot of our main characters, which it does to Ash in this one, to see our heroes just completely disfigured like that.
And you don't think they can come back. Like I said, they can. It ain't easy, but they can. And they have like that kind of vampire glamour where they can look all shiny and look, it's me, your mom again, and I'm going to sing the song.
And that's what's so confusing about it. Like, Ash gets very upset at Annie in this movie because the necklace brings him back. That's a first. She's had her mom, go back and forth. So, she doesn't believe that you're back, dude. She's going to shoot you.
We've seen this trick before, and good for her for not being fooled. Like,
shoot him too.
I mean, I get why he obviously fights her off enough to not die, but I mean, I get where they're both coming from in that scene.
And like Bloodsport mentioned, even having your hand turn against you, like, we know to trust our bodies, and to have your own body turn against you, like, that's really scary. I even thought about that a little bit when I was watching the trailer for the new one. She's like, don't let it get my babies. It's in me. Like, she knows she's losing herself to this thing, and that it can easily spread through her entire family, and that you can't fight it. It's almost like the worst virus you could get.
Well, I love the zombie analogy. Like, it does have so much of that, and we know from most zombie movies there isn't coming back from that, and so we're set up to think this is a death sentence, this is torture, this is the end, and I'm going to be trapped, and my body is trapped. So the fact that there is an escape gives you that little bit of hope, but
hope in one sense, but also makes it more messed up that it is supernatural. Like, they really are torturing your soul in there. Like, where if you're a zombie and it's just a virus, you're probably gone and dead. But yes, you are like in a hell of your own husk.
They say that to him when they have Linda in the vice, that your Linda's being tortured in hell. It's a horrible thing to happen to yourself or to your loved ones. And, I thought about this a lot, because Ash comes back from it. I think you're still there just riding passenger while these deadites are killing everyone that you love and mutilating your body. I think you just kind of hang around and feel the pain of it.
Yeah.
I will say,
too.
Yeah.
Something that always kind of gets me in the beginning of the movie is how quickly Ash goes to, I got to cut her head off. Like, it's just like, well, that's what we got to do. And not like, I'm going to call the police. Not like, I'm going to go get help. I guess I have to bury her in the back and put a giant cross on her. I mean, that's what you got to do.
Though Sam Raimi says when in the commentary, because they didn't get the rights to their own footage.
So they couldn't.
So they kind of had to backtrack a little bit, and they weren't going to do the whole, like, he went there with his friends, yada, yada. So you can kind of see this as like a different dimension. All that was really important that you needed to know from the first one is he had a girlfriend and she died. Yeah. And if you watch the first one, if you remember, Linda was buried.
Yes.
Cheryl and everybody else, they blew up at the end. So it's kind of like continuing with, well, what happened with Linda? And he saw in the book, you need to cut them up. So he's trying to put her to rest. Yeah. But if you just watch the second one out of context, you're just like,
because I saw the second one before the first. Because I saw Army of Darkness first, and then I saw the second one. And I was a teenager. I saw it with a bunch of my friends, and we were definitely just like, bro, go to the hospital. Call the cops, bro. Come on, man. Like, you've escalated this. Like, someone's gonna come looking for her, and it's not gonna make you look good. Right. So it once I saw the first movie, I was like, oh, I see what they were doing. But out of context, it definitely is just like, oh, okay, all right, we're just burying bodies in the backyard. I mean,
he even does that in the movie. He comes to the mirror, he's like, we just cut up our girlfriend with it.
But exactly, for all he knows, because like he knows the window crashed, and then he goes out there looking for her, and she's all like that with the teeth, but it could be just a prank.
Yeah.
She could be just fucking with him, and he just cut her head off with a chair, like a shovel real quick.
With a shovel, too. Like,
also,
that's a lot of effort.
one of my theories about this franchise, because it does kind of, Sam Raimi has said is kind of like they're all existing kind of in multiple dimensions, even the remake. But I kind of think of it almost as like a hellish purgatory, because we have Ash in the first one, and he seems like a sweet guy. He's just a guy who's really into his girlfriend and stuff. And then with each movie, he gets progressively more insane, and it's almost like he's going to sleazier purgatory, and he gets crazier with each one, and you can see why.
I hadn't thought of it that way. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
And he's really shy and awkward in the first one, and he's a little bit of that in this too. But we think, like, if you like as a trilogy know it all, that he kind of kept Scotty in there a little bit, because Scotty was more of the like smart mouth character. So we kind of feel like that's his way of keeping his friend alive throughout all this. Like through all the shit he's gone through, he kind of like has his friend with him still by being Scotty a little bit too. Like just the crazier he gets.
And if you wanted to get really dark with it, like if you really want to take it literally as purgatory, like he could be a guy who killed his girlfriend in life and is dead now, and that's his punishment.
The beginning of the video game Regenerator, that is, he's like, I mean, he's locked up because it's like just going off of part one. Yeah, you killed your friends and your girlfriend, dude. They lock him up and till like this little Ted Raimi, like half Demonite little person, like helps him. Like, no, we can travel through worlds. This just world is a bad world for you. Let's go find you a better one, basically.
Connie says, Ash's hand reminds me of Thing's evil twin brother. I actually want to do a fight night where Ash's hand fights Thing one of these days. Maybe we'll do a body parts one.
And an arm wrestling match.
I'd pay for.
More.
Bloodsport actually saw Evil Dead 2 in the cinemas. He was 13 years old in 87. It was a packed theater. I liked hearing your story about how you first saw it. I think you said you were 13, right?
I was a teenager. I saw it. I was with my drama club, so I was probably 17 or so, 16 or 17.
I shared this story last week, but when I was growing up, there was 3 forbidden movies because they scared the shit out of my dad, which was The Exorcist, Dawn of the Dead, and The Evil Dead. And this was the one that apparently scared my dad the most. It was Linda chanting that really upset him. And so I put it off and I put it off, and I was finally like 13 when I saw it. And that was when, I used to always have this pillow to cover my eyes. And then I was like, I don't need it anymore because I had so much fun watching it. And that's like kind of when horror movies started to become just fun, not just, it's fun to be scared, but it just became just fun. And as soon as we saw that one, I was like, I need to see the next one. And part of what prompted it is we had seen the trailers for Army of Darkness, which was coming out real soon. So I watched them sequentially. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's just been a favorite franchise of mine ever since.
Yeah, I saw Army of Darkness in the theater when I was like 9. Like I said, my dad was the manager, so I just went in. One of the girls that worked there was also my babysitter, and she's like, I saw you go in that one.
Well, it was a tradition with my drama club when I was at my high school drama club that for the cast party of whatever show, the cast watched Army of Darkness. So my first year, we were 3-year high school. I was 15 when I saw Army of Darkness. Somebody rented at Hollywood Video or whatever. And I definitely was kind of like, 15 and being like, I'm not really sure what this is, but it's funny. and it had so many quotable lines, and everyone's quoting along. So then I think it was the next year we were doing just a big summer party. And that was when we rented Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. And then the following year, and we had to put down because this was when the original Evil Dead was really hard to come by on VHS. And I think it was even like a foreign import or something. And I remember somebody had to actually put money down at the video store to like $100 or something to actually be able to take it out that would be returned, like a deposit that would be returned to them when they return the movie. But I guess they were that concerned about somebody stealing it because it was so hard to come by. And it's, it's such a funny thing now to talk about how hard it was to get copies of certain movies when everything and its mother is available streaming, but there are some movies you can't really get a hold of unless you.
That's true. I go to DVD Lady a lot because they have a lot of stuff that's out of print, and I saw like The Beheaded Man. There are still some of them, usually foreign movies that are just really impossible to get. But yeah, back in the day, I said before, you know, when I wanted to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we had somebody we met from a Xena chat room who had recordings of it and would mail them to us from California. Like, things were hard back in the day, all right, guys? We suffered. Not the way our parents did, where they're like, we had to walk uphill both ways to school and candy bars were 50 cents. No, we suffered worse because we couldn't watch the stuff we wanted to watch as easily as you can today.
Yeah, even like cable on shows, you had to record it if you were going to miss that day. Or
and then timing the commercials just right.
That's right.
Yes.
I remember the series finale of Quantum Leap, and I'd set up a recording because my family was going to be out of town, and it didn't record. And I was sobbing because there was no other way. Like, that was it. It wasn't in syndication. It wasn't on DVD. It wasn't streaming. It wasn't going to air again. And I was inconsolably upset that I'd missed my chance to see it.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, back in the day, we did eventually get Buffy on the channel that Buffy was on in my town. And yeah, Tuesdays, I would be like, I'm sorry, I can't work that day. Like, religious reasons.
Even if you had a show that did have like episodes on VHS, you'd get like 1 or 2 episodes on that VHS. I mean, that's just how they were. Like, you never get the whole.
I'd buy the packs. They sold like packs of Buffy episodes, but it was like 2 episodes per tape, and you'd buy these like 2 packs. So you couldn't even buy the whole thing. You could just buy select episodes.
Yeah, you'd get
how
like
much
12.
space that would take and how much money that would cost.
And they would just be all over your shelves because there's just so many stinking movies. Yeah.
We got Movie Massacre here. My parents, I don't know, I can't remember if my mom's here, she might know. I can't remember if they owned The Evil Dead or if we got it from Blockbuster, but it was hard to get back in the day. And I think if I remember correctly, wasn't The Evil Dead a video nasty? I think it might have been.
I think it might have been. Yeah, I think it was. Well, and it may have been too, like the big, the big movie store in Redmond, because that's where I grew up at the time. Like, there was a Blockbuster at one point, but then it was replaced with Hollywood Video. But Hollywood Video mostly carried very mainstream stuff. So you could occasionally find these kind of oddball things, but you'd either have to request them and like make friends with the people working there so they wouldn't mind getting it in, or you'd like, again, have to drop $100 to take a weird thing home.
And I have a nice collection of my favorite clips from The Evil Dead. So Sandy, absolute, thank you so much for your $1.99 donation. Very generous of you. I hope you enjoy this. I love it. He's just going full on cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Exhausting to film.
I know. God, this movie looks like it was exhausting.
But I appreciate
and it all takes place in one night.
Yeah, this movie doesn't like mess around with letting him kind of be the one-man show. The first one, like, that's where it kind of goes to. It builds to Ash being a one-man show. This one, it's like, no, let's just take a big middle chunk of the movie and it's his one-man show until the other people show up through the trail.
I can't believe he did not take off as a major star after this, because he really carried this movie. He's got physical comedy. He's scared. He's mad. I mean, he does and he's gorgeous.
I think I blame Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson.
And the chin. I mean...
He was gonna be Darkman, in Raimi's movie Darkman, but then the studio stepped in and said, "No, we don't want this guy that we don't really know just because he's your friend," and that was like a major blow to his career. Whatever, I don't know. I mean, I don't really blame Liam Neeson. I just think it's funny because he wasn't. I think it would have been better with Bruce Campbell.
Though I do think Bruce Campbell, he may not be the household name as like an A-lister, like Tom Cruise or whatever, but I feel like when it comes to horror people, he is. Yeah. Like, he's the king. He is,
and Briscoe County too, and Briscoe, like he has a very big cult following. Yeah, Xena, like he's definitely a genre star. And I think, well, he recently
like
popping up on he's been doing like the Hallmark movies recently.
Oh, really?
He's done like the last 2 years. He's popped up on some of the Hallmark Christmas movies because when he does, it'll, I'll have Hallmark on because I don't know. I'm like, what? Yeah. He's done.
I need to check these out now.
Yeah. And he's good. Of course he's good. Like, because he's Bruce Campbell.
He's amazing. He's really good.
According to his book, he got to be in serving Sarah, like because there was a strike going on at the time. And he's like, normally there'd be all these checks and balances to make sure a guy like me wouldn't get that type of part, but they were just kind of desperate, and there was a big strike, and they're like, yeah, come on, you got it.
I'm glad you mentioned his book. He's got 3 books, I think, 3 biographies. One is essays, Hail to the Chin, right?
Yeah.
And Make Love the Bruce Campbell Way.
Confessions of a B movie actor.
Confessions of a B movie actor.
If Chins Could Kill.
If Chins Could Kill. So yeah, there's 4. And then there's a book of essays, and then he did a fictional book too. So he has something already.
Make Love's mostly fictional as well.
Ah.
It talks about some real life relationships that he has with people in Hollywood, but it's a story of it's fake. But it's great. And listen to the audio. Listen to the audio version of it. It's amazing. It's like has all the like sounds and stuff. Like he gets into a duel with someone and like they have gunshot sounds and everything.
Yeah, he does all the audiobooks. Bruce Campbell was the reason I saw Congo in the theater and took my little brothers.
Yeah, I was so disappointed that he died
he
so
gets
early.
killed.
I had a feeling he was gonna die because they don't really promote him that much, but I knew he was gonna be in it, and I'm like, oh cool, it's like Jurassic Park with big apes instead of raptors.
And
but
Connie,
then he's like died right away. I'm like,
yeah. Cool death though.
Yeah.
With the eyeball and
His friend's eyeball gets thrown at him.
Connie mentioned he's also in Burn Notice and Jack of All Trades.
Jack of all trades. I loved Jack of All Trades. It was only like, was it 1 season? I loved that show.
It's
And
great.
I was so sad it was only 1 season.
And then Burn Notice, he took off. They even they ended it with a movie about him, like his character from Burn Notice. Like he got his own little movie for it.
Let's talk about some of the characters that don't get recognized as much in Evil Dead 2 because there is more of a cast. I really like Annie. I love in the commentary. If you listen to the commentary, he's like, she should be the hero, because she's badass.
She is.
She shows up there in the most impractical outfit ever.
Mosquito's gonna eat her alive.
Yeah, and there's a guy squatting in her parents' house, her parents' cabin, and there's blood everywhere, and her parents aren't there. So, but she adjusts pretty quickly to what's actually going on, and yeah, she sacrifices herself to hopefully eliminate the Deadites to send them back to whence they came.
Well, she hears it from her father firsthand, like when she's listening to what's going on in the recording, like, about how he killed her mom and stuff and buried her. And okay, plus she's familiar with his work, so yeah, she picks up pretty quick. Jake, not so much. Jake's a very stubborn man.
Yes, good old reliable Jake, who I always remember his name because there's a song about him in the musical.
Yeah.
I love Jake. Jake, honey, like I see why you're risking your life for Bobby Joe because she way out of your league.
Yep.
He
leveled up there.
Bobby Joe, he doesn't even have all his teeth.
No, Bobby Joe was a little gross just because she got the chew spit as soon as you meet her. And she's like, Pah! And then later on, the eyeball. And even when
she
Ash
doesn't spit.
When Ash gets kicked down the stairs, she spits down him. I hope you rot down there or whatever. She's just spitting all the time until she gets the eyeball, and then she swallows.
But I love Bobby Joe. The person whose name I always forget is Ed, which is Annie's boyfriend.
Evil Ed eats hair.
Evil Ed.
Yes, but what I love about him as a Deadite, he is so creepy, and he's got these rows and rows of teeth inside his mouth. He is one of the scarier Deadites in this film.
I feel kind of like, through his eyes, how weird this all is because the bridge is gone. He's going to meet his girlfriend's parents for the first time, and the first thing he sees, the first time he sees his girlfriend's mom, she's a Deadite, and he runs over and starts punching her in the face. Like that's how he meets his mother-in-law, or whatever.
We'll meet her parents, she said. It'll be fun, she said.
But yeah, he really gets to shine as a Deadite. He's way better as that. He looks cool.
He's really great.
He eats hair.
I almost wonder if he got cast for like stunt performances because he does the wire work. He does a lot of physical stuff.
Yeah. So, but he was great. And then Jake, who's like, we got to go out in the woods and save Bobby Joe, and they're like, nah, dude, if she went out there, you can forget it. So
when she gets pulled around through the wood, every time, I don't know, the pulling stuff always gets me. Watching people get just like jerked through the woods, I ache. I'm like, oh,
that's just going through her face.
Yeah,
too. Like the twigs are just right underneath her skin.
Like they had to do something different because they took it pretty extreme in part 1.
Yes, they did.
But they're like, we want to do something also equally extreme. So they like drag her and they slam her into that big tree at the end, and that's when you see the pages break, the glass. It's great timing.
And they don't need the Deadites when they infect you. They somehow need to find a way to get into you.
Yeah.
Which, the first one's the tree rape, but this one she swallowed the eyeball, so they didn't need to do that.
That was the gateway in.
Yes, they will find a way in.
I got spit.
Linda, I love that Ash has so many Lindas. They even make a joke about it in the series.
Yeah.
Like, you got to think for Lindas, because he has another girlfriend named Linda who's a character. Then the original Linda comes back as a Deadite. But even these ones, even though it's the same Linda, it's a different actress this time.
Yes.
And then it's Bridget Fonda in the next one. Like, I
the least amount to do, but
yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah, we just need you for some quick little recap scenes.
But she's really cute in this, and I think even though she has very limited screen time, they establish she's dancing to him playing the piano, and then that comes back later when she's a Deadite, and she's great as a Deadite when she's screaming at him with her head in the vice. I think she's really
she's great.
We talked about Henrietta, Ted Raimi, like the stunts. I mean, he did some stunt work and stuff. He's a fake ship in the first one. This is one where he really, really got to shine. I love when Henrietta is chanting from the cellars. So, I mean, that's a tough call to try and top, because Cheryl did such a great job doing the same thing in the first movie. But he does it in such a different way that I just love him. I think he's great.
Yeah, because Cheryl was like the best Deadite of part one, but Henrietta just like they had to go in a different direction with it. You can't just take that character; you have to do something different, but similar, like to where we all feel it. That's why I think the remake was great, because they didn't have an Ash, because they didn't want an Ash, because you can't just straight up replace Ash. But they had someone that was, kind of a red herring to an Ash, and he did a great job because he also wasn't Ash. It wasn't sit there nitpicking everything he was doing and like during part of the performance.
He had elements of it being that he had a little sister like Ash, and his girlfriend was there like Ash. But ultimately Mia ended up being the big hero of that. But we'll talk about I can't wait till we talk about that one, because they so cleverly mixed in so many different things. Even the mother-daughter relationship, they gave it to Mia, but how Mia's kind of manipulated. She had to watch her mother die, and they have that song that her mother used to sing. And in this one, it's the mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird.
The hush little baby.
That's the one that the mom sings to her in this one. And I feel so bad, because there's a moment where it almost seems like she's bringing her mom back, and then Ash kills her. I'm like, whoa. She maybe had her mom back.
Maybe. I mean, she was really transformed at that point with the long neck and everything, but still, like, it does look at her, and it's like it has like a sad look on its face. Like, maybe.
Oh yeah.
She's down there deep, and maybe it was just enough strength to distract her. Maybe she wouldn't have got her back. I don't know. We'll never know, sadly.
That's incredible effects, and you can read the emotion on this thing with its really a long neck, so bird-like, and it's not
missing
human.
an eyeball at this point.
And you can still read that it has this maternal love for Annie, and it's sad.
That's great plot work right there.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Hey, Jamie's here in the chat. Welcome, Jamie.
Yay. Hello.
But yeah, the makeup in this is so good. I think probably my favorite makeup look in this was Evil Ash.
Yeah.
He looks so creepy, and it's so good because he looks so completely unlike himself. It wouldn't have worked if it looked too similar, Yeah,
but still recognizably him.
Yeah, the white eyes.
The eyes. Oh.
Yes.
He picks up Jake and just throws him head first into a tree. It's just awesome.
Yeah. And it looks so effortless, but like obviously that's got to be like wire work and stuff. He can't just actually pick somebody else up, but it just looks so real. It's so believable, and that's why I think we get so immersed in this world. Even just the production design, I was noticing that when we were watching this. I mean, the production design of the first one's great, but the woods are real. They're really on location in some woods that perfect woods that they picked.
Yeah.
And then the cabin, they took that up a notch.
Because they kind of made it this time, where the first one, they had a cabin. I think some of those camera angles, because part one did have a little more of the obscure camera angles compared to part two, but I think it was kind of just for space, because they were in a small little real cabin that didn't have much. For this one, I think when they made it, They recreated it to be similar, but I think they gave themselves some space for the cranes, for the cameras, for everything else that they needed.
That's what's so cool about if you do the escape room. You go in there and you're in the main room, and it's to a T. Exactly. Yeah. And then if you get past that one, you're in the kitchen, and then you're in the work shed. It's really cool.
Chainsaw. It's like
you go on the whole journey of it. That's cool. Yeah. I haven't checked it out yet. I need to.
You need to. I was really worried because I'm really claustrophobic, and I never did one. But obviously, it's a serial movie. I had to take it. But the top is open, so it doesn't feel like. And you're so invested in finding clues.
Yeah.
And you're kind of immersed in this world of the movie that you don't even notice it. Plus, you can leave if you want.
Yeah, they'll like they're watching you. I mean, like
you have a walkie-talkie too.
Yeah. Okay. They'll help you if you're like claustrophobic or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
It's amazing.
It's very cool. It's the only one I've ever done. Now it's Dark's here too. Let's see what else. I'm
always impressed that obviously there's a bigger budget for this one than there was for the first one, but it's still not what I would call by any means a big budget movie. It is a relatively low budget movie. It's so ambitious. All of the effects they do, the stop motion they do, the stuff the actors have to do, the makeup, it's an ambitious movie.
Well, and they didn't just show up to do okay, you're playing Ash. That's what you got to do. We got a stuntman covering you. No, you are the stuntman.
Yeah.
And you're also going to have to do a whole bunch of behind the scenes work too. You didn't just show up there to do your little job. You were part of the whole production. It was a handful of people who made this movie. Yeah. Again, why I compare it to Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Night of the Living Dead, because with those movies too, it's just a small group of people and everybody does everything. You're working behind the scenes. You don't have a day off. Yeah. You're part of it. And that's why I consider Bruce Campbell as much as one of the filmmakers of this, even though he's not yet a producer, because he did so much of it. He contributed so much, to just the ideas and everything that we see on screen.
It's so collaborative. And you have to be when you're making a movie like this. And I think it would be so easy for something like this to go wrong. You're asking so much of your actors. You're expecting so much of them to, again, not just show up and act, but to your point, be stunt people, be putting their bodies through the ringer, to be going to these really extreme places emotionally. And all it takes is one person to not quite be there for the whole thing to fall apart. You're so dependent on this small group of people. So the fact that they pulled this off, I think, is just one of the reasons why I remain so impressed and so in love with this film.
And it's such a progression too, because it starts even before The Evil Dead, because they did Within the Woods. If you look at that one I've only seen on YouTube, and it's such a poor quality. And then you see The Evil Dead, and you're like, wow, this is light years better. And then he's just like, hold my beer, I'm gonna up it again. And he does this one, and you're just like, holy shit. I have a poster of this. We have a poster of this above our bed. It says the only movie that's scarier than The Evil Dead. And I have to agree, it's scarier. It just took everything that we love about the first one and it just amplified it. And that's saying a lot, because I'm not dissing The Evil Dead. That is an A movie.
Yeah,
this one's an A+.
Found a way to outdo himself somehow.
Yeah, it's incredible. Let's talk about the horror of it, because I think it really shines there too. We talked so much about the comedy, and it is really funny. But it's scary. I mean, parts of this movie are nightmare fuel. Like I said, I was forbidden from watching these movies because they scared the shit out of my dad.
Now, Deadites are scary as shit. They're blind with those eyes, but it's just damn, that looks so cool.
Do you guys have a part of this movie that you consider to be the scariest?
I mean, honestly, the stuff in the woods always really got me. Because I grew up in Washington. My family had a cabin in the woods. The forest being a place that during the day is so beautiful and alive and nature and lovely, and there's deer and bunnies, and at night the forest is its own kind of living being that's terrifying, because the trees look alive and they're dark and ominous and tall. And so being in a situation where you're out there and you're being chased by something, and you can't just have a clear path anywhere, you're dodging things, and then the trees themselves are grabbing you and pulling you. And I don't know what it is about twigs puncturing skin has always been a thing for me. Twigs and being stabbed with tree limbs, and because they're blunt. They're not sharp, they're blunt. That hurts. That is not a way you want to go.
Yeah, the idea of the force watching you is so creepy. Like you think you're alone, but you're not alone.
But you're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's always like very much hit something for me. Anything with the woods, because you want the woods to be this like nice, pretty, nature safe place, and when it's not, that's you're betrayed. Why did you betray me?
I think for me, it's kind of it's the beauty of this movie because it is funny, but it's also scary. I am claustrophobic. I don't like dark, cramped places, and when they shove Ash into that cellar, I'm just like, oh God. Like, I don't want him down there just because it's a cellar. It's creepy. And then you hear on the recording, I put her in the fruit cellar. You're like, oh shit. And that's when you see Henrietta come up from the ground and just being trapped in there with something coming up from the ground like that. It's just, that's exactly what you're picturing in your head when you're in a place like that. There's something like really insane happening. And it's just so scary.
I was gonna say the scariest parts for me is the evil we don't see. It's the camera, as we were talking about earlier, like when it chases him and he has to hide in the cellar just to get away from it. And then later on, when the sun's just going down, even though it's been day for like less than an hour, it seems like, and now he's got to get in his car and it's chasing him back to the cabin. Those are probably like the most thrilling parts. But the most, I guess, horrifying part is just when he's getting beat up by them and they kick him down the cellar and stuff because they're not listening to him and he's just outnumbered by humans, which is a very scary, rich situation anybody can find themselves in. And
yeah, I put it together with Texas Chainsaw and Night of the Living Dead so much, but in that one too, where it's like the people who are supposed to save you are what you're afraid of.
Yeah. Well, and it's so much of I think this touches on so many of our fears as people. Like, we fear the thing in the woods we can't see, but we know is there. We fear our bodies betraying us. We fear the dark and the cellar and what could be down there with us. It hits so many of the things we just instinctually fear. And you're like, it can't be the worst thing that could actually happen. Oh no, it is. Even as funny as it is, the stuff with his hand, like, yeah, it's delightful. But like,
can you imagine having to cut off your own hand though? Like,
cut off your own hand.
I think the remake did a good job of showing you just how horrifying that would be. Like, if you're really in a situation where you are either going to be possessed or you have to cut off your hand. And the remake too, because we get 2 cutoffs in the remake where she has to rip her hand out from underneath the truck. Like, that would be extremely painful. It's not something you would do lightly.
No,
but I mean, it's sad because that's like what a mouse trap obviously is sometimes, and sometimes wild animals get into a trap and they will gnaw their own hand off or arm off. That's the whole thing about Saw. Like, he's got to cut his own leg off just to get out of there,
Yeah.
There are some things in this, like he gets possessed and he comes back, but he never gets that hand back. It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah. And it's even the bits that are, well, I think Danny, you said this near the start, like the difference between a horror comedy and a comedy horror. We had comedy horror before, but it was always very, very comedy. It was silly. It was slapsticky. It's, stuff that isn't meant to be scary. It's meant to be played for silly. The line here where it goes from being funny to being horrifying can happen so quick and so fast. And sometimes you're laughing because you need to laugh at it, because thinking about like cutting your own hand off, thinking about it too hard is just horrific. So it's easier to focus on how funny it is that he's having a fight with his own hand and then his own hand is flipping him off and all that. But it really is horrific. It's terrifying. So I think that is done just so well in this movie. I really.
This movie also kind of makes you feel like you're going insane, and so you're laughing like he is, because you're just like, "What the hell else are they going to throw at me? I don't know how much more I can take." And you need some kind of release, just like how he laughs, and he's not laughing because he's having a good time.
No.
Also, I noticed I have that clip of Henrietta coming up from the cellar. If you want to see it.
The worms. Because it's, again, our bodies decaying and the idea of worms eating us from under the ground. It's just a whole other thing that you don't want to think about.
And we think that when that happens, we won't feel it because we'll be gone. But in this, like, imagine if you had to. You're trapped in your body while all of this is happening. It's really extreme body horror, possession, zombies, infection, all of the things. And I think that's what makes this a truly scary film.
It just hits you with all at once. The part where, because he's laughing as he's like, you know, he's like talking shit to his hand as he stabs it and he gets the chainsaw. But then there is a part where he genuinely sounds so heartbroken and he sobs, "Give me back my hand." You know, like he is heartbroken that they did that to him. They are literally breaking him physically and psychologically, like through everything that they're doing to him. And he's tormented.
Yeah. Well, and again, that idea that he is maybe in some kind of his own hell is a really interesting thing to think about when you look at some of the scenes like that. It's just continuing to break him down more and more and more.
I also kind of like how it's just kind of an accident, but you mentioned Quantum Leap earlier, and somebody in the chat mentioned, you know, he never did make it home. It's kind of with Ash. You know, he starts off as this sweet boy. He's just going to a cabin in the woods with his buddies, and he never quite gets back there. You know, he's always involved in this Deadeye bullshit. He gets sent to the medieval times. He gets sent back, and they follow him there. You know, in this series, they follow him there no matter where he goes in his life. This is his life now.
Even in the show, the whole town refers to him as Ashley Slashy, and his dad disowns him.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, the whole town hates him. He doesn't go back home. He gets a trailer far away, and he just kind of becomes a drunk, and things pick back up. But that's just how he is. He never gets to go home again. Like, he never gets that hero's welcome, even though he did go back in time and, you know, he fumbled a bit, but he managed to save the day. He still never gets that hero's welcome.
Well, and there's that part at the end, too, where in the book, they say that, you know, the book was lost, and I can't remember exactly what year. It was lost at this time, and a hero came from the sky, and you see the chainsaw, and then he's screaming at him because he realizes, oh, God, that's me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
Like, we're supposed to be done. And here I am. And I'm going to have to keep doing this. Like, send it back. It's endless torment for Ash. He's a truly just put upon character.
Well, in the first one, like, Scotty rented the cabin, but in this one, he's like, I know the owners won't come back. And so it's like he kind of scouted it out, but he's not renting it like legally. He's taking it while they're gone. But he's like familiar with where the chainsaw is. He's kills his girlfriend pretty quickly and buries her with like all so familiar to him. Like he is almost reliving his hell over and over again. Just in different variations. There was this cool little short film about Constantine recently. It was animated, but it was like Constantine in the house of something where he's put into this purgatory, and every day he wakes up and he's got a family with Zantana, and like they die horrifically and he can't stop it. And then after that he relives it slightly different every time, and it almost feels like Ash is stuck in this. Like just it's slightly different every time, but it's still like that deja vu feeling for him. Like he instinctively kind of knows how it plays out, but he has to keep doing it.
And you mentioned earlier how he's kind of borrowing from Scotty, who was his best friend. And you would think, like we talked about this last week, how Ash is the person who should not survive this. He's the sweet boyfriend. He should die. He's also the person who's the last to believe what's going on. So, like, Cheryl should be the final girl. If she's out, then maybe Scotty. Like, Ash is the least likely hero. And it's like you said, he has to borrow from Scotty, like his personality, this being a ladies' man, making a joke about stuff, because who he was too soft and sweet to survive this. And so I think he's borrowing from people that he loves in order to adapt.
Yeah, I even think a little bit of Annie goes with him when he goes back in time.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like he's almost the glitch in the Matrix in this movie, because when Annie and her people show up, like that's when the horror movie should almost start. But Ash is already there and he's already mucked things up. Things like fall off. Like he doesn't fit. And like that's one of the reasons why he, I think, goes into the portal and stuff, because it's just like, maybe something will fit later. I don't know. It never does, but he's always looking for somewhere to fit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, well, and like, I think to your point, kind of like losing little pieces of himself as he takes on these pieces from the people who he encounters and then who mostly don't make it.
Yeah. He always survives it, but people around him don't. And I think, it's like he kind of collects them, you know?
And it's a way of moving forward that like as survival, a coping mechanism almost. Like the only way I can kind of continue to live and function is to feel like I'm taking some of this with me.
Yeah. a very lonely existence he has, and that's why he kind of has to be a ladies' man, because you know what, they don't stick around.
Yep.
He's always he always goes back to being alone.
Yeah, and a lot of comedians have tragic like upbringings, but
Yeah.
their comedy is a coping mechanism. He's had a lot of tragedy at this point. Like he seems so innocent in part one, like haha, but now he's gone through so much that he has to make these cheesy one-liners. He has to make these jokes. He has to be this thing that he, in a sense, wasn't to begin with, but it's a coping mechanism.
Well, and that's the thing, like, Annie's not a love interest in this, but she's a good friend of his. He gets a love interest in the next one. But if he was as attached to everyone as he was to Linda, he wouldn't survive. And that's why he kind of keeps people at a distance. And he just, kind of makes jokes about things because they don't stay.
And I love that in the first movie, I'm not even 100% sure. I think in one of his books, they talk about why it was like a monocle or how they ended up getting it. But in this one, I love how it does bring him back to reality and stuff. He sees through a monocle the truth. He sees who he really is, and it kind of like does bring him back. I know it's also just a love symbol of losing her, Linda, but I like that it is a monocle. Like it shows like he brings him back into the light in a sense. Like
the necklace he gave, which I have that. I got one because I have a cosplay for our remake one. But yeah, the necklace. It's so weird. Because it's a nautical necklace, one of those ones that magnify. It's not the traditional thing you would give like a girlfriend, but it makes it really memorable. And I like that you add that like analogy to it, where it's what makes him see who he really is and brings him back.
And that's exactly what those are to help you see. So
I
really like that. I don't know if that was ever intentional. So the first one, like the main thing is he uses it to kind of like grab the book and throw it in the fire and stuff, but this one, no, it literally like helps him see who he is and brings him back. So
yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's nice. Yeah.
We also haven't talked about the sound and the music, which is something I think is a huge step up from the first one.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds a little bit rough on the first one, but this one we've got a theme. We've got the theme that Ash plays that they use kind of as like his theme of Linda, which is really pretty. There's another theme song to this that's really good. And then also just the sound design of the Deadites. Like I can hear that sound anywhere, and I know it's from this movie. That, that sound. It's really cool. Like the sound design, I really think ups this up. If you can watch this with surround sound or in a cinema, it really does.
Elevates it. Yeah, absolutely elevates it. One that I think, I mean, again, it you see this with so many slasher films that have that recognizable thing that you associate with a certain killer or a certain villain or something. I think having that is really important if you're going to build a franchise. I mean, obviously we see with Jason, we have the and Michael Myers has his little thing. But there's something so off-putting about this because it's not a cheerful little like ditty. It's not a little piece of music. It's kind of a horrible sound.
And you feel like you're getting squished into a can, and literally at the end, the trees are smashing into the cabin. But before even they become the trees doing that, it feels like everything's crunching everybody inside.
Yeah. The sound is in pretty much all the movies. There are very few things that connect all of them, but that sound is definitely in there. There's also certain quotes, which I'm sure you guys know what a lot that are.
Groovy.
Oh, well, yeah, actually, I have that one here for you.
Groovy.
He says that in all the ones that he's in. It's been in all the movies so far. It needs to be an Evil Dead Rise. Here's another one.
Join us.
Yes. And I'd say the next one.
I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul.
Swallow this.
Swallow your soul. Join us. And groovy. I would say the big ones.
The Deadites. That's their catchphrase. Swallow your soul and join us. I don't know any
Ash one-liners. The responsible, witty responses. The join us,
baby.
Well, he has a lot of great lines, but I think the one that's in all of them is groovy because he really ups his one-liner game in the next one.
Yes, he does.
I don't know how many people watching played a lot of 90s video games, but Earthworm Jim, who his catchphrase was, Groovy. So I have this shirt that's
Yeah.
Earthworm Jim, but he's all ashed out, and they both say Groovy all the time. So
And
there
mine's
you
just an appreciation for how Evil Dead makes us want to read books.
go. Right?
I love the design of the book. The book is in all of them too. And Sam Raimi did say that. I read an article with Evil Dead Rise. He didn't direct it, but he was a producer, and he said, one of the things you have to have is you have to have the book. There are certain things that
absolutely.
you need to make an Evil Dead film, and the book is essential. It's part of that lore that you need to have in there. The other thing I would say is they all have a chainsaw. He doesn't have a chainsaw arm in the first one, but he does have a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Mia doesn't have a chainsaw arm, but she does have a chain. I already can see in the trailer, she's got a chainsaw in the new one. You gotta have a chainsaw.
In the first one, they all should have had stunt credits because Bruce Campbell talked about how dangerous it is with all that blood, and he's wielding the chainsaw, and they were so slippery and it's so dangerous. They didn't even take the chain off the chainsaw. Or and this one, when they cut through the thing, it's funny because it's cut the opposite way. It's why you don't actually see it. And the sawdust is on the top because they were actually cutting it from the bottom when it's supposed to be cutting from the thing. That's why they kind of just edit it that way. But also, when he's got the chainsaw arm and he's got this giant hose that shoots the exhaust out of the chainsaw, goes down his leg and out the back and out the cabin, because otherwise they'd all even with that, there was still a lot of chainsaw smoke that they were all breathing in. So it was such a pain in the ass, but
they were really hard. You guys got to check out all the special features and stuff, because it's just a labor of love. I mentioned this last week, but for a lot of the ones in the first one, there's a DVD, the Ultimate Edition by Anchor Bay. It's got way more special features than you're going to get in the 4K. And for Evil Dead 2, the 4K will have you covered. Someone also mentioned Kanda. Even in the remake, they have that. Which, credit where credit is due. Ash is kind of a numbskull, but he's never read the damn book. He's not that fucking stupid. All right. He played the tape, which I would have played the tape. I want to hear what's on it. But he's never read the book. The guy who's supposedly really smart into folklore in the remake, don't read the Latin. Okay, don't.
Well,
oh no.
He did read it. Well,
Deadeye's got our friend.
The first episode of the show, to impress a girl, they got high and they did read it together. So
yeah. Oh no, Kim's gone. I'm sad.
We got to bring her back.
She'll be back, right? She'll be back, right?
She got sucked away in the portal.
Jason says, music is so powerful. I recently rewatched Smile, great one, by the way. And the music really helps to create what it feels like to have a complete nervous breakdown, that feeling of dread and abandonment. Okay, there she is. Oh, we were worried that the Deadites got you.
So was I. I was hearing a...
did you guys notice? I don't know if you can see it, but behind me is actually Ed in the fruit cellar. This wallpaper. No, on the wallpaper.
Oh yeah.
I see the hands.
Yes. That's where he is.
One more scene I want to bring up with Annie, because most of the time in these movies, even in the first one with the pipe and all that stuff, when he's down in the cellar and all the blood splatters all over him, and when he cuts his girlfriend's head off on that one and she bleeds all over him and stuff. Ash, in this one, when he shoots the wall and all the blood comes out of all of it like that, he's usually that guy. He's usually the guy in these series that just gets covered in blood until it remakes. Except for in this movie, Annie, when she's got Jake and she's trying to hold on to him, and her head is and then all that blood, Annie's it's so nice to see someone other than Bruce Campbell get some of that, just get all that blood gush. It's just
poor Annie. Cool. I hope they do some kind of a homage to her eventually, because she was a cool character.
I like to think somehow she lived. I don't know. She probably didn't, but I just like to think somehow. Also,
in her alternate movie universe of it, she did.
Yeah. She got stabbed with the Kandarian dagger, which is weird because somehow that ended up back in time, but you never see her body with the dagger go through. Maybe in part 3.
The dagger in the book, they kind of find their places back where they belong.
Yeah.
In multiverse theory.
But I think it's funny.
And the Oldsmobile, that's something I didn't mention before. The Oldsmobile is in every single one. And she makes a joke about it. Linda makes a joke about your car, but that car is still apparently running. It's in every Raimi movie. It's in the first one. They drive it to this one. It does some cool stunt driving in this one. It goes back in time.
Yeah.
And lands in Army of Darkness, and Mia's sitting on it in the remake.
Yeah, trap.
Yeah.
Time low on gas. I love that. But no, Sam loves that car. It's like his good luck charm. He still puts it in all of his movies. He's even in the Doctor Strange movie recently. It's like floating around. But when they were doing Spider, there might be a couple old ones that might not have been in, but most of it is good luck charm. He wants it in like all of his big movies that he's done since Evil Dead 2 that I know of. But yeah, in Spider-Man, it was on the lot, and Bruce Campbell like hired some people to pull a prank where he's like, move that car and hide it. Like Sam wants it over there. And then when Sam's like, where's my car? It's gonna be in the next shot. And he's like, and then Bruce is like, oh, I saw it getting towed. And like he'd like mess with him for a while. And he found it, but they like to torture each other.
And that's something else that's really remarkable about this. I mean, you know, even the Beatles didn't stay together forever. Like the fact that Bruce and Sam and Ted have been together, you know, they're still a part of the new movies. They're producers on them. You know, they still work together. He even sent him a tweet recently saying, like, get to the gym because, you know, he's bringing him back in. And you just know that they're best friends in real life. And I think it really shows in these movies that, you know, there's just a love of making movies and, you know, spending time together. And it kind of just makes, like, there's other partnerships like this, like Tenacious D and stuff, where it's just like, you get to see this like ongoing friendship.
And it's weird because he had his two real brothers, which I'm sure he still loves, even though one of them gave him that scar with the screwdriver when they were really little. That's why. Bruce Campbell. And he was like that part of a trio, and I'm sure he still loves his brothers. They're great people. But when he met the Raimi brothers, he kind of jumped into that trio because it was people that had shared interests. Like they loved the same things he loved. They wanted to make all those like little Super 8 movies together and stuff. And they just kind of went from there. And like they're his other brothers. He has brothers, but they're his other brothers.
Just like Sam puts that Oldsmobile and everything, no matter how, because he's gotten big. The Spider-Man movies put him into the mainstream, and now he's Marvel movies, he still finds a place for Bruce Campbell, which I think shows that it's not just like a working relationship, but that's a brotherhood. Like he didn't have to put him in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. He did that because he loves that man.
Yeah. That's just how it is. Like if you're signing him, you're gonna probably get a Ted and Bruce like cameo. They're gonna be on set doing something. Like they get a job. It's like my friends get paid, and there's other people like that. Like what's his name? Owen Wilson was like anytime. He like Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller. Yeah, anytime I make a movie, Owen Wilson, if he shows up on, he gets a part. That's just what he tells them. He's like, if I'm making a movie, you show up, you're hired for something. We'll make a part for you if I have to. It's like,
well, I kind of related to that. I read an article recently with Josh Hartnett saying he regretted turning down the Batman movies for Christopher Nolan because then he wanted to do The Prestige, and he got turned down for it because it's about building those relationships.
Yeah.
And when you work on a movie, you have to do a lot of crazy stuff with these people day in and day out. You want to work with people that you enjoy spending time with. And with a lot of these films, it's like they build a family.
Yeah.
With these Evil Dead movies, especially, I feel like that.
Well, hell, that's why Lucy Lawless got to be in the series, because Bruce Campbell directed a few episodes of Xena. He was also a character for both that and Hercules, which is another Raimi creation in a sense. So there you go.
And Raimi did Oz the Great and Powerful. He brought back the 3 ladies from the first movie into that movie.
And Bruce Campbell, obviously.
Yeah, like
so.
It's just Raimi, don't forget you.
Exactly. I like it when
it's family. It's like the Fast and the Furious,
but better because it's awesome.
When you really click with people and you build that trust too, like there's so much trust involved in making art, and I think the bigger certain movies get, or the bigger you get, being able to keep some people around who you know are going to keep you grounded or keep you real, or where you can just know that day that they're on set, I'm going to have a good time. Like that's important, you know?
Yeah. And as someone who's, you know, dabbled in movie making and just a pro wrestler, when I've knows people, I can like get away with what I can do to them more and what they can do to me more and stuff. We can push each other and trust each other. So we can torment each other.
Also, I've been friends with like Kim and other people for a long time, just because makes what you're doing so much more enjoyable to share with people who also love it. Have I forgotten anything about Evil Dead that you guys really wanted to talk about?
The cool back scenes where they have like the fog machines, but they play it backwards. So it's like evil escaping back in when the sun comes up. It's like it cowers away.
That's really cool.
Like it seems like they knew what they really wanted to do in the first one, but they had so many limitations. And this one, it's still pretty much an indie movie, but they have more money because they have more idea, more wisdom, more like ideas of how they could do things better. And they went out there and did it. And I love it. They polished their act.
I don't like that you said it. They went out there and did it, because, this movie, it's not people who were in Hollywood. They weren't. Not people who had a lot of money. They didn't. They just wanted to make a movie. And there's so many people who are like, I'm an aspiring filmmaker. And this is one of those movies where you don't need to be aspiring, especially in this day and age. You can make a movie on your phone.
Absolutely.
Do it, I think this is one of those movies that really shows that if you want to make a movie, there's nothing that has to limit you.
I mean, there was a reason why the third one's tagline is Evil Dead Goes Hollywood, because that was when they finally had a studio. They finally had all this because Raimi was...
Dino De Laurentiis.
But this one...
Don Coscarelli.
Still just people in the woods making a movie. Better plan, better tools, better money. But other than that, still the same people just doing the same thing.
It's another reason why I put it in that trilogy with Night of the Living Dead, which inspired Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I think inspired a lot The Evil Dead. These are very much like people who wanted to make a movie and they weren't in Hollywood. They didn't have money and they suffered, but they ended up making something incredible, and it shows how even with a very limited indie budget, you can make a film that's a masterpiece. It's why I review a lot of movies. I watch a lot of movies, and the excuse I hear a lot for a bad movie is, well, they didn't have a good budget. This movie didn't have a good budget. The Evil Dead didn't have a good budget. Night of the Living Dead didn't have a good budget.
Woods had no budget.
You can make a masterpiece with just passion and a little bit of money.
Work on your craft, and if you don't make that great movie that first time, just make a different movie and keep making movies until you get better at it.
And at the very least, have a good time doing it.
Exactly, because that always shows up on the screen. Absolutely
shows. Yeah. I'll forgive so much when I'm watching something where I know they have limitations. Like, you don't want to... I think sometimes in horror, and I think it's easy for people who don't necessarily watch as much smaller horror and indie horror, where they watch mostly the big budget stuff, to watch some of these films and be very critical of them because they're lower budget. And when you see what somebody's vision is, when you see what they're trying to do and the storytelling is solid, it's like, yeah, sure. Maybe it would have been nice if they could have done XYZ, but this is still a labor of love. You see the love, you see the passion, and I'd rather watch that. I'd rather watch that than, like, man, I don't know, Pray for the Devil or whatever it is I saw a while back.
Yeah. We talked about The Evil Dead, how you can see some of the flaws. Some of the makeup's not great. They fixed a lot of it on the Blu-ray, which makes me sad. Like, it used to be that the moon was just on a piece of paper, but I love it for its warts and stuff because it just shows how creative they were trying to overcome these. How are we going to get a good shot of the moon? I don't know, piece of paper. Yeah, even if something you might think is a little hokey, if you do it creatively and you make a movie that's got vision and passion and I guess just the gumption for wanting to make a film, it's gonna show.
Yeah. And as for Raimi and like Bruce Campbell, like I said, they were Three Stooges fans, and they were making those Super 8 films, and they noticed they'd play them for like their high school, and then later when they graduated, they still played them in the local little town that had the same kind of theater group area. But they noticed that they would get the reactions anytime there was like a physical stunt. Like Bruce almost killed himself, like jumping out of a car while it was moving for one of those films. But everybody loved it, so they loved Three Stooges, and they realized that horror wasn't what they were ever set out to make. Like the three of them never like said, hey, we're gonna go out and make a like horror movies over stuff. It's just that was what got fun reaction with the body stuff. And it was just fun to make because they got to make these cool props and stuff. Like, even if it wasn't their favorite genre to start with, it was their favorite genre to make.
And that's something else. I think people misunderstand the advice of write what you know. That doesn't mean that you have to know about Deadites. I'm sure they didn't know a lot about demonology when they made this, but they knew Three Stooges, they knew pratfalls, they knew practical effects, and they put that in here. You can even if it seems something incongruent, like Three Stooges, you can make it a part of this. They obviously like Ray Harryhausen because they put that in the next one. They know comedy. You can use your toolbox, bring it into the film, and utilize that instead of trying to make I don't understand why so many people do it, a cheap shark movie.
Oh yeah. The CGI shark that doesn't look anywhere nearby.
It was hard for Spielberg. He made a masterpiece, yes, but it was a challenge. So if you're doing it on no money, good luck.
If you're gonna do something with shark, at least do it like a puppet and make it fun, something silly. I don't know. I'm tired of the CGI cell phone looking sharks that are just nowhere near the actors.
No. I always Jaws 3 when the shark comes through the window and it's just like it looks like just a still picture moving forward. Not moving except this, and then it kind of crashes, and it still doesn't. Even as it's crashing through the window, it's not cracking an expression because it's just.
Yeah.
Well, and I think so many filmmakers get to a place like Spielberg did with Jaws, where it's like the shark doesn't work, and he could have done so many shortcuts, or he could have just said, "Screw it, I'm not doing this." But he's like, "We just won't use it in this scene. We're going to do this instead. We're going to pull the buoys, so you can see that, And Raimi did that with this movie. They don't have a massive budget, but they used what they had. They were creative, and I think all filmmakers get to a place where they kind of get to a wall, and they're like, "This isn't going to work." What makes you a great filmmaker is what you do next. It's your solution that you come up with. It's not giving up.
Yeah, and sometimes it's simple as a sound effect, but they can make it work, make it entertaining, make it scary. They can do that. Like, just gotta have creativity.
Yeah, and that's why this is a masterpiece, and why Sam Raimi is one of the greatest, I think, underrated filmmakers.
Oh wait, I have to change my mind before we're done. My favorite Deadite is actually the deer.
What?
That's actually
I
my
love
favorite
that
Deadite.
deer. Every time I see that deer, it kind of reminds me of like the Twilight Zone movie with the bunny.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's just the white eyes that all the Deadites have, and it just laughs. And I love the part where he's laughing with the lamp, and he's just going nuts with it too. Like, I don't know, I love that.
Is that your favorite part of the movie?
It's definitely up there. I have so
Do
many
you
favorite
have
parts.
a favorite scene, Kim?
I mean, I think it's the fight with the hand every time.
Yeah.
Like I could just watch that scene because it's fun. So I never get tired of seeing that scene, and again, it leans more comedy, but it brings me joy, and the commitment. Like as an actor, I appreciate the absolute physical commitment to fighting your own hands.
That would be so hard. So hard.
Yeah. No, it's epic. I love it.
Kevin's comment was, "The flaws are part of what makes a horror movie fun to watch. I love seeing mannequin heads squirt fake blood everywhere when it's done sincerely."
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I'd rather see that than CGI blood. Make a mess, how
Blood's so easy to make.
it is. It's just and I think we answered this earlier, but Bloodsport wants to know, what's everybody's favorite Deadite?
Well, we said Henrietta earlier, but I'm changing it to the deer.
Okay, I'm sticking with Henrietta.
I'm sticking with Henrietta.
I don't know. It's just that scene where it snaps its neck. It's obviously Henrietta is the most important, and I will say it's still the best. But
yeah,
I love that deer. I just love it. I remember when we did the show, or no, the musical was a moose. The musical has that talking moose.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys have any more questions in the chat, now it's time to get them in because we're going to be wrapping it up here real soon. Any more final thoughts you guys have on the movie that you want to talk about?
Groovy. Favorite movie.
Why is it your favorite movie?
Because it just takes me on the journey that is most satisfying to watch for me. I don't know why. It just is. Like, I just click with this one. It was the last one I saw. I was 14 or whatever when I finally put all three of the trilogy together. And I love it. Like, as much as I loved part 3, and that probably was my favorite until I saw this one, it just took the best of both worlds, where it has, that crazy ash, but it also has this very serious, scary cabin.
It's a perfect segue between The Evil Dead and Army of Darkness. I wouldn't skip from The Evil Dead to Army of Darkness. You need this one in between. This is absolutely my favorite of the Evil Dead franchise.
And Ash is just, I don't know, he is my hero. Like, I would aspire to be like him. Like, he's not perfect, and I'm not perfect either. I know that about myself plenty of ways. So it's just nice to see someone up there like fighting the good fight, flaws and all,
He's a much more relatable hero than some of the action heroes that we grew up with.
And
he seems like an everyman kind of guy. He has that appeal to, I think, like Bruce Willis and, like in Die Hard and stuff, like that kind of guy where you relate to him and you can kind of put yourself in his shoes.
And even though he eventually gets to those cheesy action one-liners, there's a reason why, as we explain it. Like, he takes a lot of what he is. It's all coping and stuff. So it makes sense. Where most of those characters, like, oh, there's like 20 people being shot at by machine guns and people are dying, but they still can say something like that, and it's very hokey,
And
action
that's
hero way. But
something with Evil Dead too. Like every time someone dies, even if it is, sometimes in a comedic way, they always acknowledge that person's death. Nobody just dies and is forgotten about.
like Bobby Joe, they don't forget about her. Jake won't let anybody.
Mummy D Movie says the deer is also her favorite.
Yes.
Okay, we got a question from Bloodsport. What do you guys think about Mr. Rotten Applehead, the big demon with the 3 heads that was straight from a comic book to me? I think he's talking about Ed or Henrietta. The big demon with 3 heads. There's not one with 3 heads. Okay, Bloodsport. I need to know. I don't know if I don't have a picture of Ed.
Ed eats hair.
This one?
Swallow your soul. I swallow your soul. I swallow your soul.
That one's Henrietta.
He has one long head, but he does cut off the arms and the head. It's like 3 different shots, so that might be one.
Yeah.
At the end, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. When they're going through the portal and there is that big head that's like a tree.
It's funny. They gave it the embodiment, like in the flesh.
Yeah, it's a big face.
And it's got
okay, I know what you're
hands.
talking about. I got you.
Yeah.
We're on the same page, you
And the trees all have faces, so maybe
so
between
what do I think about it? It reminds me a lot, even though I guess they're very different. I made the joke to you yesterday. I feel like it's the father of the tree from Poltergeist.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. I like that canon. Let's lock it in.
But yeah, those trees stop playing around and they all start pounding it, and then like the giant demon face like pops through and he stabs it with the chainsaws because it grabs him with the hand. It's very much a video game boss character before that was even a thing.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really scary. It doesn't get enough screen time.
No.
But I do think it's really
It's
scary.
rad. And it is actually very intimidating. Like I remember when I saw it and young, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And just getting squeezed and pulled into it. Good thing he's like trying to get the chainsaw to go. So I like that. Because the car always starts up pretty easily in these movies, but that chainsaw sometimes. Horror movies got to wait till the very last second to work.
It's the rules.
Yeah.
No. Nice.
Wish we would have saw more of it, I guess, in the next movie. But then the next movie, you finally get evil Ash, and that's like versus Ash. So it's like that's where that goes.
There are a lot of callbacks with the new movies, and I'd like to see a callback to Annie, some kind of acknowledgement of Annie. I do know in the new one they haven't really said specifically what it is. There's some kind of Ash Easter egg. I think it's just like a reference to him somehow. So look out for that. I would love something to reference Annie, and I would like to see a Deadite like that because it's not a Deadite. It's kind of like the evil Dead.
Yeah, they finally put it in the flesh. He's like, well, why would we want to do that? So we can send it out of a portal. Otherwise, we can't get rid of it.
It wasn't even back in the medieval times, so that needs to come back.
Yeah, until he grabs the wrong book.
Yeah.
Gotta call him, get them on that.
But
is there anything else you guys would like to see come back in like a future movie?
I mean, it's such, to me, an interesting and original franchise, even though it's building on things that are familiar. And I think it's one of the reasons I like it is that it's, to your point, it's not a straight possession movie. It's not just a straightforward anything. I wouldn't hate if the new movie leans a little bit more into the spirit of the humor that the originals had. Which again, in the remake, it not that there's not funny moments, but the tone is different.
It's very different.
Really
there's some things in the trailer where she says "Mummies with the maggots" now, and when she's like, "Mom, you don't look so good." Like some parts of that, I'm like, okay, I can see that this might have some of that. I need to see how the scene plays out.
Yeah, because I also for me, that's such a signature Raimi thing too, to have that line.
So I saw that in Doctor Strange for sure.
Yeah, there was a little bit of Evil Dead 4 in that.
So I guess I wouldn't mind if they leaned a little bit more into kind of honoring some of the tones of the first couple of movies, but that's mostly just because I'm a fan of the style. I really enjoy that. But no, I like that we're continuing to make the world bigger. I think maybe just acknowledging that we are in the world with again, I liked that having that little Ash bit at the end of the
Yes.
That nod. And so I like the Easter eggs. I like the nods that even if it's not overt, he doesn't need to be a part of the movie in that respect, but just acknowledging that we are still in this one big universe.
Yes. You know what I thought of that would be kind of cool?
Yeah.
What if it's his hand that comes back? Like just the hand.
I'd be there for it.
Still one of the very unsolved Addams Family mysteries. There you go.
Oh my gosh! What if that is Ash's hand?
The thing is Ash's.
You just
Found a new
blew my
home.
damn mind.
I adopted it.
Yep. That was
Make
from,
sure you rewatch that Wednesday series in a different way.
that came from a different version, but it was Ashley A. Williams.
Oh my
Ashley
God.
Adams Williams.
Will you explain that? Because that's probably really confusing.
Just they've kind of through the video games and comic books that really explored the multiverse of it all. That's why it wasn't intended. They just did soft reboots because they didn't own footage. Even in part 3, they're gonna soft reboot how we see Ash fall into like in King Arthur's cart, like in the end of this movie. They change it up.
Mm-hmm.
They all kind of like praise him because he shoots the flying demon, but then later on in part 3, they're like, no, we don't like him. He's one of King Henry's men and stuff. So they rebooted it like that. But then later on through comics and video games, they talk about it and they're like, well, it's because it's a different version each
It's
time.
like multiverse, like
And
multiple dimensions.
Each Ash has a different middle initial.
Yeah,
there
that's
you
how
go.
you tell them. And in the comics, Marvel versus Zombies, I think. Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
and Marvel Zombies.
Yeah. Howard
Versus-
the Duck kills
Yeah.
Ashley M. Williams.
Zombie Howard the Duck eats Ashley M. Williams' brains because he never had to be a hero on that one. He talks about he's like, we got saved in a cabin a long time ago, and he was like, I was ready to be a hero, but we never had to because you had all these Marvel heroes flying around. They could save everybody for you. But now that they're all like, he's like, I'm gonna do it. So he goes into the hardcore story. He's like, I'm gonna do it, and then Howard the Duck eats him. But then it's like it's not the right Ash. The right Ash
And
brought them into this dimension.
It's Zombie Howard the Duck. Guys.
Yeah, zombie Howard the Duck.
Kim's just like, I need to go read this now.
Marvel
I
Zombies.
do. I'm like, how have I not read this yet?
Marvel Zombies. Just get the graphic novel.
versus Army of the Darkness.
Yes.
And then I think Zombie Hulk gets the Necronomicon and he's like, ooh, toilet paper. And Necronomicon's like face turns into a frown, like, no.
How have I not read this?
It's funny. It's good.
And it jokingly says that because that Ash escapes that one too, and then he ends up in Marvel Werewolf World. And that's just how it is. It's like a joke.
That's amazing.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to say before we call it a night?
Just looking forward to that movie
Me too.
and all the
I'm
other
excited.
ones we'll get.
What are you guys working on in your channels?
Well, tomorrow you and me will be reviewing Renfield. So
Ooh.
Renfield.
we just saw that today, so I'm really excited to talk about that.
Mhm.
And it's fitting too, because I think everyone has their chicken soup movie, their movie they watch when they're sick.
Mhm.
Mine is the original Dracula with Bela Lugosi
Mhm.
with the new score that was added in later on. That's on the
Ooh.
That's my chicken soup movie. Always makes me feel good. I love the music.
Okay.
I just love it. And so I watched it recently, and it was so perfect because I will tell you guys, in Renfield, they recreate some of the scenes exactly.
Yeah, it's like basically a requel.
I
You know how they
love
do
that.
They only acknowledge the original movie. They kind of just did that with Dracula for Renfield.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I love that so much. I haven't seen it yet. I was going to see it today, and then I didn't.
You watch the 1931 Bela Lugosi Dracula, and you'll get so much more out of it.
Mm. Oh,
Wish I
I'm
could
excited.
watch
I'm very excited. Nice.
And thank you for watching, Jason. And Kevin, thank you for another super chat. Do I have any more clips that I didn't play?
666.
I think I played all of them. Here's this one.
Yeah.
Just because it's great.
I love it every time.
It never fails to satisfy. Thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate it. Hail to the chin, baby, he says.
Mhm.
Nanny's chicken or Mummy's chicken soup movie is Jaws, of course. Her whole house is like Jaws themed. So
This
That's
is kind of mine.
adorable.
Evil Dead 2 is kind of mine. So there you go.
I love that. I love that.
and what are you working on over on Ghoulish Tendencies and your other horror projects?
Ghoulish Tendencies. We just recorded the second part of a 2-part episode. So second part will be out on Tuesday, talking about the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, the serial killer in Cleveland in the 1930s. Prepping a little for Crypticon, which we all have coming up.
That's in May.
And we'll be paneling there.
And also how I celebrate my birthday.
Oh yeah, it's the best way to celebrate your birthday. And I'm pre-production for my teen horror films this summer, so we're doing callbacks on Tuesday, which I'm really excited about. But and prepping for 100 Days of Horror, because that's gonna sneak up on me, and year 10 is gonna be a big year. But you can find Ghoulish Tendencies everywhere podcasts are listened to.
All her social media links, including the Apple and Spotify links for Ghoulish Tendencies, are in the description below. I just got all Danny's links in there, so I got you guys covered. You have no excuse not to check out all the stuff. Also, she didn't mention it, but I'm just gonna promote it. Kim is my favorite person who tweets along to Joe Bob's show, The Last Drive-In, which will be premiering at the end of this month. So definitely follow her on Twitter. She's just delightful, guys. She's lovely. And what am I working on? I am getting ready for the creepy channel called The Third, which is 24 hours of live streams across 24 different channels from all around the world. It's going to be massive. That's in July. And I'll be on Horror Addicts tomorrow. And then next week, please join me for Army of Darkness. What we love about Army of Darkness. There is not a bad movie in this franchise. I am so excited to talk about that one with you guys. It's going to be a blast. And then we're going to do the remake. And then we're going to talk about Evil Dead Rise. It's going to be awesome. And then, of course, Crypticon. So maybe we'll do something at Crypticon together. A little, I don't know. Something like.
Hopefully we get on.
Coach Bear will be at Crypticon.
Yes. Awesome.
Lots of good stuff. I'm so looking forward to it. So thank you guys, everyone. And until we meet again, blessed be.